What's up, comic book people out there? Most people are already aware of the fact that Masters of the Universe has had many different media outlets, including a magazine, they had ongoing comic books, they had mini comic books, they had a cartoon, they had a live-action movie, but something that a lot of people were unaware of was the fact that they also had a newspaper comic strip. This has finally been collected in one definitive book that's being published by Dark Horse Comics. Personally, before this book came out, I had only read a few different comic strips here and there that had been scanned by some fans either around the country or around the world, and they decided to put it online. But never a complete story. So having this being published and being put together is something that I've been really looking forward to. The foreword is done by Danielle Gelehrter, which I'm so sorry, I'm totally mispronouncing that last name, but it's nice to see the efforts that she went through along with Val Stapkes, Eric Marshall, and Raunak Singh in obtaining all of these comic strips. There have been 1,674 different comic strips that have been printed. Through their efforts, including going to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., they were able to find 1,639 of them, meaning that 35 of them, unfortunately, are just lost to the wind, but still, that's pretty impressive. These comic strips came out in the late 1980s and early 1990s, and they weren't printed in all newspapers across the world, so obviously it was a bit more difficult to find some of them. There are 15 different stories that were made. The first one was written by Jim Scholl, but the remaining other 14 stories were written by Chris Webber. For any Masters of the Universe fan out there, this is a great read, because even if you are one of the most hardcore fanatics, chances are you hadn't read all of these comic stories in their entirety. And some of the stories here spotlight different characters that never had their chance to shine either in the Filmation series, the mini comics, or the ongoing comic books, or any other media format. Characters like Clamp Champ appears in this, and characters from the movie like Gwildor is also in some of these stories. Also Ninjor and Scareglow, it was great seeing them in this too. The storyline even continues on into the new adventures of He-Man when He-Man goes out into space. Most of the 35 strips that are missing are in the last story. Luckily though, there are little explanations as to what happened in each of those individual strips so that you can still read along and not be lost. All of the artwork was done by Gerard Fortin, so it does have a pretty consistent feel as to how everything has been detailed out. The vast majority of these strips are all in black and white, but we do get some here and there that are also in color. Chances are those were probably released in the Sunday edition of the newspaper. The stories are all very easy to read, and they flow fairly nicely. The only problem is it's 514 pages, and it took me a bit to get through all of it, but still, I did enjoy every one of them. Sorry for the crudity of this shot, I just want to show a comparison next to this book with some of the other books that have been published by Dark Horse Comics. Most of them are somewhat in different size comparison ranges. You can see here this is slightly taller than two of the other books that have come out, while the mini comic book over here is much smaller. I cannot express how much enjoyment I got out of reading the stories in this book, knowing that these comic strips had never been collected together like this before, and knowing that these stories had been printed once before but had been mostly forgotten was something that really got me excited. So I applaud all of the people involved in this and all of the work they put into it to try to collect as many of the strips as they can, and so that they can publish it through Dark Horse Comics. So obviously I'm a huge fan of this. If you're interested in getting a copy for yourself, it's available just about anywhere. I got mine on Amazon. It's available both digitally and hard copy. I wanted the hard copy for this, even though usually I go for the digital copies for almost everything else, but He-Man and Masters of the Universe is one of the few things I make the exception for. So that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching me in this video. Hopefully I'll join you in another video very soon. Peace, love, namaste, and I'll see you guys later. Best. I don't want to give away any major spoilers to the storylines that are in this book, but I am going to read out one of the last panels in the very last story. It says, "Today ends the chronicle of the adventures of He-Man. We share his mission to aid the lonely, the lost, and the broken, to sow peace, not war, and to make music in the heart." That is a great ending.